Hello, kindred spirits. Welcome to the Magical Mystical Divinations Podcast. I'm your host, Southern Mystic Tama P, creator of mysticdivinations.com. That's mystic with a K, by the way. I invite you into my sacred space, which is located in the heart of East Tennessee, and I want to discuss extrasensory perception or abilities, or mediumship. As in, are you an empath or do you have psychic abilities? So grab your favorite beverage and hang out with me for a spell as we connect on a higher level. Do you ever feel like you just know things? Do you have especially good insights or intuition? While in the bath or the shower or while you're driving, does knowledge just come to you? Have you ever known who's on the other end of the line the instant the phone rings? Then you may have a very special ability. You will want to tune into this episode as we discuss signs of extrasensory capabilities. Thank you for joining me today for episode 5, season 1. And today we are going to discuss if you have a sixth sense. I believe we all have extrasensory capabilities. In this episode, I will refer to it as magical capabilities at times. As you know, I am all about magic. You know, the kind we create in our daily lives. If you tuned in to episode 3 of season 1, I talked about unleashing our inner magic. I am certain you gathered from that episode that the magic begins within. We have to instill belief in our magical powers and abilities from the get-go. Or our magic is only as strong as our beliefs are. I also talked about how the definition of magic is broad and only limited by each person's interpretation. So this prompts me to ask you, what do you believe in? Did the answer to this question come quickly, or did you have to ponder on it? I also want to ask you, what makes you believe? Is it something you were brought up to believe, or something you experienced that perpetuated the belief? I will give you a few seconds to think about these questions. Now, you just defined magic in your mind. It was the first question brought up. Going forward in this episode, when I refer to the word magic, I want you to insert the definition of magic that sprang up in your mind, because we are going to tap into your magic during this episode. We are going to identify it. And remember, it all begins with belief. Now let me refer back to episode 3 again for a brief moment, and then I will tie it all together. I spoke of superheroes in episode 3. Superheroes are fun and entertaining, and they have extra powers beyond what we mere mortals have, right? I mean, when you think of your favorite superhero, which special power comes to mind? If we look at our superhero's strengths and superpowers, is that the reason we like the superhero? Because we admire those powers? Or is it because we are lacking those powers and we are envious? I personally believe it has a little bit to do with both of those reasons. So instead of focusing on the superpowers we don't have, we are going to focus on the superpowers we do have. Most of us don't even realize we have our own extraordinary superpowers. For example, we are all capable of great physical strength. Of course, we have to train for additional strength by eating nutritious meals and incorporating strength-building routines into our lives and building up stronger muscles and bones over time. We also have to realize that it's not feasible to use our super strength all of the time. How exhausting would that be? Plus, it would damage our tendons and tissues as well as shut down our functions. But we can draw on this greater physical strength when we need it the most. That's how our special magic power works too. We have to nourish and train our magical abilities and not overwork them. We have to acknowledge the powers and cultivate the powers, practice our powers to use them for the best purpose. We can't abuse them or use them for the wrong reasons. And we can't let our magical powers become some novelty, freak show type of ability that could ultimately be used against us. So we have to protect our powers, just like our favorite superhero. Every superhero has to protect their superpowers, and our powers are no different. I hope that by using superheroes and their powers as examples, I hope it helps you to mentally visualize what I'm talking about. Because just like most of us can develop great physical strength with proper training and nutrition, we can also enhance other special powers available to us the same way. So here we go. Let's look into the special powers that I believe are available to all of us and tap into our inner magic. Some of you may still be saying, if it's there. Well, first we have to believe that it is in order for it to work. I believe, and I am assuming you believe also. You believe in something, right? We addressed that at the beginning of this episode. Then for sure I want you to believe in yourself. Believe in your human abilities. And also believe in your extrasensory abilities. Everybody has some, or at least one. How can I be so certain? Because we all have some or at least one of these 5 senses, which are seeing, hearing, feeling, smelling, and tasting. Some of these senses may be stronger than others, some may be weaker. And we all have intuition, or as I call it, a psychic tendency, whether you refer to it as a gut reaction, instinct, or foresight. So if we put those 2 facts together, that we have one or all of those senses, and that we all have at least instinct or a gut reaction, then this leads me to believe we all have some special abilities, whether gifted or born to us. These abilities are called extrasensory abilities. They are also commonly known as the clairs. The Clair senses are types of psychic abilities that correspond with the 5 senses we all usually are born with. But the clairs are something special. They are powerful. They are extra. They are magic. The clairs are described as similar to a radio frequency where one can tune into a specific frequency and receive information. When you tap into these senses, the messages you receive can be used to make life choices that are in your best interest. The question is whether or not you are listening to the signs and signals and clues that are being sent to you. Most people have heard of clairvoyance, which means clear seeing. It's when someone sees through their mind's eye, known as the third eye, the chakra between our eyebrows. A clairvoyant may see flashes, images, or something like a movie scene or a television program, or even a still picture like a photograph in their mind of what is happening in the past or is happening in the present or will happen in the future. Then there is clairaudience. This means clear hearing. When someone has the ability to hear things physically without the use of their physical ears, basically it is telepathic information coming into one's mind. Sometimes people will hear this as a regular voice as if someone is speaking to them. This is one of my special clairs. I have been able to hear messages from the divine or my inner self or my guardian, whatever you want to call it. And when I was a paranormal investigator, I was great for working with EVPs, because I could often hear voices from spirits sometimes, which could be validated with our digital recordings. Plus, we have clairsentience, which is clear feeling. It's when someone can feel information within him or herself from others or places or things. Clairsentience includes a person feeling the physical and emotional pain where atrocities have happened. They can sense jealousy, insecurity, fears, or displeasure in others. This process of sensing is due to some form of energy transfer between the clairsentient and other people, where places or even items physically touched or held by the clairsentient. This special ability is very similar to clair empathy, meaning clear emotions. That's when someone experiences inexplicable extrasensory perceptions of other people's emotions, moods, subconscious motivations, and, like the clairsentient, their physical or medical symptoms in some instances. The result of this clear empathetic experience may be a very physical response for the person with this special psychic ability. I know a lot of empaths, and being very empathetic isn't an easy magical power to live with. It would be very easy for this special power to drain the empath and perhaps even cause long-lasting depression and anxieties. And for this reason alone, proper care and training are important for the empaths in our world. Of course, there are other clairs involving tasting or smelling something that isn't physically present at the moment. Some people could dismiss that as a memory recollection, but it isn't as easy to explain away when someone smells or tastes something in a location where something of a great magnitude has happened, and the smell or taste supports the attached legacy that perhaps the person knew nothing about beforehand. I have witnessed such an extrasensory capability when a few of my friends and I went out to a local haunted location, and at one point my friend smelled a certain tobacco smell that none of us others could smell, and later discovered the correlation between the strong tobacco scent and the location, and also from the time period that the alleged spirits from those buried there lived when they were, once alive. So definitely, having one or more of the special clair abilities allows a person to sense things beyond the range of ordinary perception, which in my opinion is a form of magic, a form of mysticism, a form of divination if used correctly. a form of mediumship, which brings me to perhaps the strongest, most powerful Clair of them all, at least in my humble opinion. Claircognizance, meaning clear knowing. This psychic ability is when a person knows things without clear explanation. They might not even realize how they know. They just do. And these people, to me, are clearly psychics in one form or the other. I mean, it has happened to me more than a few times when some form of knowledge or information came to me out of the blue, but I can't seem to just call on it at will. And since I can't use this special ability in the manner of a true psychic, I consider this to be a divine source using my intuition to guide me, or in some instances, to protect me. So, let me ask you, do you ever feel like you just know things? I know I asked that at the very beginning of this episode. Do you have especially good insights while in the shower or bathing, or while you're driving? Have you ever known who's on the other end of the line the instant the phone rings? Or thought about someone you haven't seen or heard from in a long time and suddenly you hear from them? Then you may have this very special Clair ability. This may be one of your forms of magic. Having any hint of any of the special powers mentioned today means you already have magic brewing inside. And like I said at the beginning of the episode, I think we all have special abilities. If you have any signs of any of the special Clairs, then you're definitely in tune with your surroundings. If you have any extrasensory perceptions at all, and it's not always about facts, but about trusting your inner guidance, you are already ahead of the curve. I want you to believe in your inner magic. I want you to nurture yourself physically, mentally, and spiritually. I want you to recognize that we choose what we attract. It starts with our mindset. When we put our expectations out into the world and set limitations on what is possible, we may also limit the range of what we can perceive or experience beyond our own minds and our beliefs, because our beliefs are the driving factor in our perceptions of reality. When we close our minds to possibility, then we are essentially shutting down our receptors to the metaphysical, spiritual realm. If you close your mind to possibility, you may be essentially guaranteeing that you will not be in tune or notice or receive anything spiritual. You might be shutting out the guidance you have been asking for. You might be closing off your inner magic, preventing yourself from growing spiritually and connecting with your highest self, connecting with the divine. Everyone has the gift of intuition, and our inner magic is simply trusting and believing and connecting with this gift. Sometimes our biggest hurdle will be self-doubt. Most of us are conditioned to doubt our own abilities. Those who are confident and trusting in themselves are already using these special abilities to some degree. Even then, we need to nurture and practice using these amazing qualities to improve our lives, our relationships, and strengthen our connection with God, or Spirit, or the divine, or your highest self, whichever term you are comfortable using. So let's begin with feeding our minds more positive thoughts, telling ourselves we are capable, and let's set aside time and space for our personal and spiritual growth. While in our sacred space, even if it's just a space inside ourselves until we have the actual physical space, we can promote our special abilities and train our psychic gifts. By tapping into our intuition, our spirit energy, when I meditate and open myself up to my highest guidance, my mind and body become flooded with mental impressions, thoughts, feelings, images. For some people, this will include sounds, tastes, and smells. These are the subtle signs we should become more aware of. When we ask our intuition to give us answers, we have to pay attention to our body's reactions and feelings. For example, that tightening in the gut could be a warning. It could suggest avoidance of a situation. Or those mental images that come flooding through could be visual scenes of what is about to happen if things don't change. This is where using divination tools can help sharpen our senses. In episode 4, I shared several methods and tools to use in personal divination. And there are many, many tools and methods available to us. We have to experiment with these items in different ways and means to discover which approach resonates with our personal abilities, our individual skills, and our unique beliefs. And in so doing, we are training our psychic abilities. We are strengthening our beliefs. We are connecting with spirit. We are improving our mindset. And my friends, that is simply a wonderful thing to do. I hope you have enjoyed today's episode, and I hope that I've helped you recognize that you already possess special gifts and insight. You already have superhero powers. It's all about recognizing these abilities that are extra, the gifts which I believe are part of our inner magic. I thank you for tuning in. Right now, the podcast is very new, and I am experimenting with how long each episode should be. Also, I want to release a show at least weekly, but I am experimenting with which days of the week is best to release the shows. I know that I am enjoying hosting this podcast immensely, and I have a lifetime of content to share with you. I'm asking that you subscribe to the podcast. Also, be sure to visit my mysticdivinations.com site and sign up for emails if you're interested. You can also find Mystic Divinations on Facebook, Instagram, X, YouTube, and TikTok. This has been a Mystic Divinations podcast. I am your host, Tama P. Be sure to visit my website, mysticdivinations.com. That's mystic with a K. Thanks for your support and have a blessed day.